Alrighty, Delicious. Welcome to the Delicious Recap. It's the weekly revisit of the 90s sitcom Family Matters. I am Jon Francois and Andrew Ajay Vandertunt. Are you going to be somebody this week?
I'm O-Dog. I am
Oh,
O-Dog. And don't give up the reference if you know what I'm talking about, John. This is specifically for our listeners. If you know who O-Dog is and you know why I'm O-Dog, maybe you'll catch on to it today.
so can I? Yeah. So I can't ask any questions.
You can ask questions, you can guess, but if you know who O-Dog is, do not tell them.
Okay. So I think I know who you're talking about. Can I give like a movie or an actor's name as a hint?
You can't give the movie, but you can give the actor's name.
Larenz Tate.
Yes.
There you go. But I think we're talking about the same movie once we get to it, because automatically, when I see Larenz Tate, I'm like, oh, yep, I remember that movie.
I mean, if you are a Black man or boy who was raised on television, your dad probably sat you down in front of the movie and was like, you need to learn this as a Black man.
Yeah, not my dad. No, my dad was way too religious of a Black man to have any respect for those kind of movies. I was the kind of guy that just found it on my own through like some BET Saturday afternoon rerun.
You know what? See, that's kind of the best moments because that's where I first saw The Wood. Oh my God, Players Club, which Players Club I freaking love.
Yeah.
So you know what? Yes. Later, if it's in your notes, feel free to mention it. But for you guys who are listening in the beginning, stop the podcast now and message us if you know who I'm talking about.
You have to. You just have to. I mean, you see Larenz Tate, and he was in probably one of the most iconic gangster Black South LA movies ever. Like it's like right next there. It's right up there with Boys in the Hood, I think.
It really is. And Boys in the Hood is very good.
Still haven't seen it, but I'm gonna put it on my list.
You know, when you watch it, just give it a watch. It's very good. It's one of those good movies where you watch it and you're like, wow, this is really fucked up, but this had good memories because my parents loved this movie.
I love that. All right. So before we get going, of course, as always, the Patreon reminder, please, if you want to get those season 2 episode recaps and interviews early, we have them up right now. Patreon.com/delicious recap for just $5 a month. You get them earlier than the general public does. We're doing a season 2, episode 11, Requiem for an Urcle. I think it's in reference to a movie called Requiem for a Heavyweight or Requiem for a Dream or some shit like that. I think it's like some dramatic movie that Marlon Wayans was in along with some other white people. Do you know what I'm talking about? It was...
No, I don't know what that is, but why are boxing movies always named so weirdly?
I don't know. It's supposed to be this intense thing, like Requiem for a Cause, Requiem for a Fight. It probably isn't that Marlon Wayans dramatic movie I'm thinking of, because this episode was way back in 1990, and the Marlon Wayans dramatic movie I'm thinking of was not until like 2000. So never mind that.
You know what? I love it. I love requiems. So if you like a requiem, you know it. Like Mozart, famous one. I love it. So I like it, but I would not associate it with boxing.
As we are talking, I'm trying to look up what Requiem means, because I honestly don't know what it means. It says... a musical composition setting parts of a requiem mass or of a similar character. From the Roman Catholic Church, it means a mass for the repose of the souls of the dead. It also means an act or token of remembrance. So, very heavy word, requiem.
And they are beautiful. Listen to Mozart's Lacrimosa. That's probably one of the best portions of a requiem you will enjoy.
Never thought I would hear you give me a Mozart recommendation. You have layers, Andrew Vandertunt.
I do. I mean, I played the piano for 25 years. I better know.
What? I had piano lessons that I never followed through on successfully when I was a kid. So maybe you and I have something in common.
It was a requirement for school. If I didn't do it for school, then I wouldn't have kept going. But I love it.
All right. All right. Well, the original air date of this episode, November 23rd, 1990. It is written by David W. Duclon. Oh, my God. Joel Zwick directs this episode. Literally, when I saw his name, I was like, have we not heard from him since the pilot? And I was close enough, Andrew. He has not directed a Family Matters episode since season 1, episode 3, short story. So you can imagine coming on set what he might have thought. Like, what the fuck? Like, is it the same show? Because literally the last time he directed, it was just like it was the Winslows. It was this innocent, heartwarming show. And now all of a sudden it's this little 97-pound, cold, sweaty nerd just taking over things.
I wonder if that shock is why we got the episode we got.
Maybe, possibly. I don't know. It seems like we have a ton of guest stars in this episode. Salim Grant as student number 2. Again, we're vaguely calling guest star students whenever they don't really have a significant thing in the episode. Anytime you hear a student screaming in the crowd, that means they're going to be labeled as student in a Family Matters episode. That's all they are. Oh my God, we have our beloved Shawn Harrison. He makes his official debut as Waldo Geraldo Faldo. Yes, we saw him as Guy in Towel in the party episode in season 1. But if you're talking about the character that he's most known for, the one that we see a lot for most of the entirety of the run, it's Waldo Geraldo Faldo. He makes his debut appearance. David Hayward is Coach Redding. Arnold Johnson is Fletcher Thomas. Aaron Lohr returns. Well, we literally saw him last episode as just this vague student that is like, hey, Steve, I'll give you cheerleaders if you let me be your science project partner. And now he has a name specifically in this episode. He comes in as Laura's crush, Greg Hudson. Larenz Tate, as we mentioned, he is Willie Fuffner. Joshua Wagner as student. Tyrone Tan is in an uncredited role as student. I don't know who he is, but I'm guessing he's one of the many students who stood up in that cheesy moment at the end where they're like, I'm going to stand up for you, Urcle. Willie, fight me.
Oh, that scene. It happened.
It did. It did. It did. I mean, I guess I should spoil it. It will be my junk food, and I'll explain why it was later on. But I think it seems like you and I are in agreement that scene was just unnecessary.
It really was, and I can't wait to hear your junk food because I get the feeling we might be on the same lines here.
Okay. I mean, I did like this episode overall, but there were some things that could have been taken out for sure. Do you mind explaining the rating system and how that goes?
Yeah, so we're going to talk about a few things throughout the episode. Some of the terms we're going to use are appetizer, which that is what brought you into this episode, what captivated you and made you want to start this meal. Then your entree or your main course, which is your feeling moment. What really filled you up about this episode? What was your big takeaway? And then your dessert, those tasty little tidbits on top, those little sprinkles of things in the episode that you really loved. And then your junk food, the stuff that you can just cut and throw in the garbage. Don't even put in your doggy bag. Get rid of it.
There you go. Cold open. Let's get into it. Mama Winslow is in love. What did you think about this one?
So Harriet does something that I love in the cold opening. It starts with her, I think, getting some bills. And all she's doing is going through the mouth. She's like, it's a bill. It's a bill. It's a bill. And then she's like, tax refund. And it's the wrong address. And I was like, wow, I missed that as a kid. But as an adult, that is hilarious.
Stupid question. Is it possible to cash someone else's tax refund?
It is possible and very illegal.
Oh. So Harriet don't want that smoke.
No. And the IRS, it stands for it's real serious. They will come after you.
Yeah. How about that hairstyle? So what do you call that hairstyle that Harriet wore where it's like the bobby thing on top with like the straight perm on the back and sides? What do you call that?
I call it the mom mullet, specifically the black mom mullet, because my mom had one, and that's what I call it.
Yeah. Unfortunately, white people are bringing back the mullet. I don't know why, but I will support the black mom mullet because it's Harriet Winslow and I love everything about her. I think I had mentioned in the last episode that Rachel's perm, I'm loving it. It was in the first season. Didn't she have like shorter curly hair?
I think her hair was a little shorter. It definitely has a lot more body and bounce to it now. Ooh, I sound like a shampoo commercial.
There you go. No dandruff for you. And I'm confused about what Harriet does for a living. So when she says that she caught a computer thief who was using his boss's name to order extra equipment, I was like, wait, is she like a tech security representative? Like, what does she do?
That's what I'm thinking, because now we know she's the head of security. So maybe she's like the tech security or like cyber security technically for the building, because she's in a very relaxed, well, not relaxed, very professional, but not security chase somebody down outfit. More kind of like, I'm going to investigate what you guys are doing with the company's money.
What I can, God, we're going way back to season 1, episode 2, when she got laid off and then she got the job at the end. What job did she get? Was it like a managerial position at the Chronicle?
She's head of security. So
Okay.
I'm like, maybe the Chronicle's like getting to that point, but the internet isn't super big at this time. So I'm trying to figure out like, what security are you securing? That doesn't make sense.
A lot of wordage there. What security are you securitying? That's like almost a tongue twister there. And this assistant, my God, how much vetting did they do on this assistant before he got the job? God, what a twist. He ended up being the computer thief.
You know, it always happens. It's the quiet ones. It was probably the quiet dude that sits in the corner. He was taking the computers out.
And you know what? He's a quiet white guy with a mullet. I guarantee you it.
Oh my gosh. So we and I said, it is scary stuff. He probably drives the white Chevy Astro. Oh my God.
Yeah, I don't know what that is, but that sounds like a really ratchet, trashy white people drink.
It's a minivan, but
oh, that too. That too. You know what? It's a trashy minivan of a white people drink. I'm sure did you feel some comfort getting back into that gossipy girl talky vibe? You know, Mama Winslow's coming out. She's, I guess, blushy, and she's dressed up, ready to go. She thought that Harriet entering was a date that she was expecting, and Harriet and Rachel were like, "Ooh, like a date? Tell us more."
yes, I loved it. It was just little girl time where everyone's like, tell us about this man.
Yes. And Mama Winslow reveals that Fletcher Thomas and her, that's the date's name, going out dinner and dancing. Harriet and Rachel, they want to know what happens after. I was wondering if you had the same thought as well. Mama Winslow was just like, nothing. When men mumble with mama, they drop like flies. So in my mind, it was either, okay, Mama Winslow's a really good time in bed, or she just ends up murdering her dates.
Mama Winslow, the Black Widow. I kind of like that. That's going to be our spinoff show. She's coming out. She's taking them in. Mama Winslow knows what she's doing.
Yeah, move out Scarlett Johansson. We're literally going to have a black woman. She literally is a widow, so take that.
Yes, she's got the track record, okay? Right now, Scarlett Johansson, you're just very awesome at what you do.
Yeah, and I don't even know if she's born yet. If she is born, she's like really young by this point. And this is what dawned on me during the course of this cold open. We see Fletcher Thomas come in. He's a handsomely old man with his rose that he's given to Mama Winslow, a rose for a rose, as he says. And it's literally at this moment that it dawned on me. I was like, oh, wait a minute. This is who Mama Winslow marries in season 4. AKA, this Fletcher Thomas might be responsible for the disappearance of Judy, because that's her last episode as well.
You know, if Fletcher was like, I'm taking you away with Mama Winslow, we are going to go to Disney World.
All right. I'll take that. And, I think the last thing I had about this cold open was, Estelle looking back at Harriet and Rachel being like, hey, don't wait up for me. I'm going to have a good time with this Fletcher. And secretly I was thinking, Fletcher, get your gun. She may kill you. The Black Widow may strike at you now.
You want Fletcher to be prepared. And I get it, but Fletcher, he just doesn't realize he's in for the time of his life. He's going to go home missing his shoes. And it's a very exciting thrill to know. And Mama Winslow used my favorite line in all lines when you're trying to be flirty in a sitcom. Don't wait up. I love when people say that.
Yeah. Don't leave the light on for me. I may be staying at someone else's place for the night. I might have my toothbrush over at Fletcher's place.
And then you have to make the walk of shame home. You should have gave her a walk of shame.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, with Mama Winslow, I think she just has a walk of fame, a walk of lame, maybe because she's old. I don't know. Just something opposite of the walk of shame. I imagine Mama Winslow owning her mistakes.
I feel like Mama Winslow would be like, what mistake? And she would just go to bed.
There we go. She's old at this point. She's just taking life by the horns. She doesn't care. She's living it to the best. Anything else you have for this cold open?
That is it. And before we go further, I have to ask you, how many scenes is this episode?
Oh, this is a very wonderful episode. I think we literally have just 5 scenes.
Okay, so I was not tripping watching it. I was like, it's over already?
Yeah, and that's good. That's good, because as I told you, I was running behind today. I literally finished this episode at between 8:30 or 9 tonight, and it's like 10:04 right now. So this was very friendly to me trying to get things going. All right, so scene 1, we are in the living room, and I believe this is where we really get into our main story about, Steve wanting to, go to the Sadie Hawkins dance with Laura. Laura's thinking opposite like. What did you think about this scene?
This was a fun little scene. I love that Harriet and Laura are having their little conversation about inviting a boy to the Sadie Hawkins dance. And Harriet is back on her like, no, Laura, you can't go out with boys. You need to be home.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I forgot about that. That was like was it Laura's first date last season or something like that?
Well,
yeah.
We met Steve.
Oh, yeah. Fittingly enough, Eddie can go out with girls as much as he wants, but Laura, not too far from the age that Eddie is, suddenly cannot because she'll get married at 13 and then she'll get killed by her Mormon crazy husband.
Look, those Mormons.
Oof. But they make great Netflix documentaries. You got to give them that.
They do, and they build good houses and make delicious bread. So, you got to take the good with the bad.
There's that. So I believe this scene starts with Harriet, she's really doing up her toenails. She's pretty much giving herself a pedicure, right?
Yep, she's giving herself a pedicure.
Laura is coming in with her fancy blue Winslow family cult robe, wishing her mom a good night while holding that pink notebook binder thing that suggests that she's going to, I guess, do some homework before she goes to bed. I don't know why you would do that. That would keep me up at night. And then this is a moment that I found confusing. Laura was just like, oh, have a grape. And then she just sticks a grape into Harriet's mouth, and Harriet, without hesitation, just eats the grape. Would you ever trust anyone you know, or especially anyone you don't know? But either way, if anyone just says oh, have a grape, and then they just put a grape into your mouth, would you just be like, oh yeah, it's a grape? Or would you be like, no, that could be a pill that I'm swallowing. That's dangerous. That could kill me.
I'm a thrill seeker. So I'm going to be like, yeah, pop it in my mouth. I mean, there's people I trust. If you're a child, no, because children to me are magnetically dirty. So I'm like, ooh, that grape probably fell on the floor, even if you're 17 years old. But an adult, go ahead.
Okay. So if it was an adult that was putting a grape in your mouth, that's okay. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, because it would be somebody I trust to get that close to my face. So I'm like, oh, okay, cool. But a kid, no, get away from me.
Okay. So Laura being a 12 or 13-year-old, technically a kid, you wouldn't quite trust what she's going for.
Yeah, not at all. I'd be like, no, you're going to give me hand, foot, and mouth disease. Get away from me.
So we learned that Laura is trying to butter up her mom so she can rush out the fact that she's going to the Sadie Hawkins dance. As you mentioned, Harriet is like, oh, wait, what? Sadie Hawkins dance? My daughter going out? But she's more friendly this time around. She now is like, oh, who's this boy that you're taking out? I want to know more about him. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Did we exactly have a Sadie Hawkins dance in Laura's first date last season, or was it a different dance?
I don't remember if it was a Sadie Hawkins dance.
Because Laura did end up asking a guy out to the dance last season. I remember that. So I think there was another Sadie Hawkins dance last season.
I think that it was a dance, but I don't think it was Sadie Hawkins. I think Laura just asked somebody on her own.
Okay. Because, the internet defines Sadie Hawkins dance as just, hey, instead of the guys asking out the girls, it's the girls asking out the guys. So by that measure, seeing Laura ask out, what was his name? Mark something last season, I figured, oh, okay, we're getting 2 Sadie Hawkins dances in a row between season 1 and season 2.
Did you ever do one of these dances?
No, I don't recall. No. My school dances were pretty informal. The only formal thing was the proms in junior and senior year. But other than that, anything below that for middle schoolers, it was just, oh, dress in your casual clothes and go grind on each other. And hopefully nobody will catch anything with the help of adult chaperones.
Kids catching cooties, gee.
We were some horny ass middle schoolers. I'm sorry. Things were happening that shouldn't have happened.
That is middle school. It's natural selection. It's the wild for the children.
There you go. So Harriet asked Laura if she's met this Greg Hudson that Laura speaks of. And Laura says no, but picture a Greek god with his own moped. I thought at first moped was one of those old people wheelchair bikes, but upon looking online, it's actually a type of small motorcycle, generally having a less stringent licensing requirement than full motorcycles or automobiles. Yeah, I think I can picture these things being cool for kids.
Yeah, you see people around on them today. They're just electric scooters. I have one.
Oh, so either 1990 or 2024, they're still in.
Yeah, I had one. I freaking loved that thing. It was so much fun.
All right. Well, Laura, Harriet is asking Laura to model this new nightgown that she bought her, and I love Laura's disgusted face. She's just like, and she's having like these Quasimodo movements as like she's turning around. She's clearly not into the modeling of it all. So that was a little brief funny moment that I loved.
When you went shopping for clothing with your parents, did they ever make you do that?
Not in public, thank God, but at home, yes, yeah. My not my dad so much, but my mom certainly was just like, "Hey, all right, you're wearing a suit. Turn around, let me see it. I want to see if there's a wrinkle. I want to see if it fits. And turn around, let me see. Oh, God, you got a big butt. Let me see." You know those critical black moms. They really want to look you up and down and make you self-conscious like fuck.
They do. I love it. My mom used to do it in the store. Like she'd like go try this on in the dressing room, and we'd have to model it. I'm like, leave me alone.
Mom, there's people here looking at me. You're embarrassing me. Oh, God. All right. So Steve entering not in the middle of the night, but I mean, come on now. If it's Laura's bedtime, it's too late for Steve to be entering into the goddamn Winslow house. He has no business entering that late.
It's probably before the time Herb and Diane let him inside. Remember his curfew is 10 p.m.
Oh, true. God damn those people. And he does a feint again. Didn't he do a feint in the last episode? This one, he's just like, oh my God, Laura in a nightgown. He faints again.
His fainting is so good. He faints at the same side. He always does his right side, his angle, and I just love it. It looks good.
And I was wondering if there was like some kind of safe stage combat that they went through, because, you know, if you don't faint properly on stage like that, you could end up like hurting your elbow, your knee, or whatever. So I wonder if they got some training for Jaleel on that.
I hope he did get some good training because with all the physicality he's doing, I can only imagine what his body's going through.
Yeah. And we have another reference from last episode, if you remember. You know, Harriet picks Steve up to make sure he's okay. And he's just like, oh, sorry. It's just the sight of seeing Laura and her unmentionables. Unmentionables from the Laura's Nightmare in the last episode, the Science Project.
There's something comforting about hearing Black people say unmentionables.
And it reminds me of like the Smucker's Uncrustables at the grocery store. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No.
So this shouldn't be a thing, but it is a thing. Frozen peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Smucker's makes those. So if you go to like your dessert or novelty aisle in the grocery store, you will find frozen peanut butter and jelly, frozen peanut butter and strawberry jam sandwiches. If you are too lazy to make the laziest food ever, get it frozen. Smucker's has it for you.
Yeah, I'm going to get an Uncrustable today.
There you go. I mean, it would take longer than making a regular peanut butter and jelly sandwich because you have to like heat it up in the microwave or heat it up in the oven. So I don't know what the point of it is, but a lot of people like it.
It's relatable because for some reason I've been talking about making peanut butter and jelly sandwiches for the past week with one person. So now I'm going to be like, here, this is for you. Try these.
All right. Oh, and I think the Steve, to make it different from the last time he mentioned Unmentionables, he topped it off with like, oops, sorry, I mentioned them. Mentioned the Unmentionables.
Even his Unmentionables. I need to go buy some Unmentionables now. Thank you, Steve.
Mm-hmm. And so fitting for how Judy ends up post-season 1. Her only appearance is just a line from upstairs, not even seen. She just calls down to her mom. Hey, Mom, Richie put the silly glue on the toilet seat again. Now, first of all, poor Judy for having that only appearance in the episode being unseen. Second of all, you know how metaphorical that it's up the stairs and she does not come back down for the rest of the episode. Third of all, we have to make sure that silly glue is as childproof as possible because I'm kind of concerned that a kid can get easy access to silly glue and can just put it on the toilet seat.
Well, I just hope Judy's not still stuck to the toilet seat. That is what I hope is not the case.
You know what? It's so funny that you say that because I actually thought it was little Richie that stuck himself to the toilet seat. I did not think that it was Judy that did that. That makes sense why Judy was calling downstairs. My God, Andrew. It's been a long day.
You know, sometimes it just takes a minute to get to the destination and you got there.
I guess. But did you like Harriet's little delicate mom pedicure run upstairs? She had the cotton stuff between her toes and she's just trying to, tippy toe up the stairs.
Straight men will never know the struggle.
So you've been through that too. I take it when you give me your
Yeah,
pedicure.
probably about 100 times. Because it never fails when you're at home doing your pedicure. Something is across the room that you have to go get.
No, nobody there to get it for you. You always have to do that. That
Because
weird.
everybody else who's there with you is getting a pedicure done too.
I mean, props to you guys. How do you run in your heels so like on your heels so effortlessly like that?
It's practice. You gotta get some practice in there. Throw on like a little pump one day and then just give it a try. And then you'll see. It's practice and you get used to it.
All right, fine. What did you think about Steve doing his little irritating, like, oh, Laura, let's sit you on your couch, doo-dah, doo-dah. He was doing a whole big song all about just getting Laura to sit on the couch so he can talk to her and ask her to the dance.
As somebody who breaks into song often, I loved it because I didn't understand what was happening. I just
Yeah.
looked up at the TV and I'm like, what is going on?
Now, what's the actual song that he's singing to? It's like, cut them, these things that do that, do that. I forget what it was, but it's a familiar melody that we know.
I've only seen it in I think a John Henry movie where they were like doing something with the transatlantic railroad. Something, come on, lady, sing this song, do that. And I don't know what the other parts of it are.
Got it. Well, either way, it was an irritating headache. So thankfully, that's the only part of the episode where I could not tolerate Steve. And did you notice his political joke that he made that you could only make in 1990 when, he says he wouldn't bother waiting for Laura to ask him to the Sadie Hawkins dance because that's like seeing Dan Quayle in Jeopardy. And Dan Quayle, to throw back to season 1, where I think Rachel last made a reference, a dumb vice president. He was the George W. Bush of his time, vice president in 1990. And to see him on a smart show like Jeopardy, that's the joke there. It would never happen.
Great joke. As a Jeopardy lover, I appreciated it. It made me laugh.
And the audience was really laughing at that. They were clearly of the time and they knew how dumb Dan Quayle was. And of course, Stevie puts on this sad puppy face to like the awes of the audience when Laura has turned him down and made it clear time and time again that she's not interested. I mean, this is a repetition thing that we keep on saying. Laura has made it clear she's not interested, but the audience is like, oh, poor Steve, he's getting rejected. Poor him. Why do you treat him like that, Laura? So Laura says she's going to the dance with Greg Hudson because she likes him a lot, a whole lot. The way she was saying that line, it just seemed like she was like working herself up into some kind of like adrenaline, like, pubescent teenage, like, oh, I'm discovering these feelings and I don't know what they are, but there's something.
It was like taking it like she was going to smash a beer can on her head and be like,
Yeah.
for the Super Bowl, when they do that, that was what I was expecting.
So you're saying Laura expresses her burgeoning sexuality like a thoughtless, football-loving caveman.
Yeah, she's ready to get to this dance. Like, hole in one, bitch. Like, she's ready.
Okay. Steve tells Laura her and rich kid Greg will probably be in a limo while she's missing out on being with him while his cousin rides them on his horse trailer. And automatically I imagined like the horse poo that Laura and Steve would be surrounded by if that were to happen.
Yeah, oh my God. It's not even a carriage, it's the trailer. Oh.
Yeah. I've seen pictures of the trailer on Microsoft Bing as I was watching this episode. It ain't going to be a pretty thing.
No.
Yeah. This is where my appetizer comes in. I was initially about to roll my eyes when Laura asked Steve if he was okay, and he emotionally was like, I'm all right. It's just something in my eye. And the audience awes. But then Steve does this like 360, and he just made me laugh out loud when he just suddenly cracked a smile out of nowhere and pointed his finger up, and it was just like, oh, look, it's my finger.
I have to watch this again now. I missed that completely.
Oh, I mean, it depends on how you're watching it. Like, if you're just watching it casually, just like no pausing, then I could understand how you could miss that moment. But since I like pause like every 2 seconds to take notes, I'm laughing at Family Matters so much harder when I pause and take notes than I do when I'm casually watching. If I was casually watching all the way through, I'd probably be like, eh. But for some reason, there's something about pausing this show and taking in the comedic moments, moment by moment, it becomes a lot more enjoyable to me.
I like your technique. I might have to slow it down and see, or maybe drop it an octave, and then Steve's notes will hit me a little bit better.
Yeah, yeah. So that was my appetizer. That was a good one. And when Steve says to Laura, if Greg turns you down, which can only be the result of inbreeding, I had to look up inbreeding because I did not know what that meant. It is the breeding of I know. I don't know what a lot of things mean, Andrew. It is the breeding of closely related people or animals, especially over many generations. So I think that Steve implied that Greg, worst case scenario, could be Laura's relative.
That could be it, or Greg could just be coming from the cast of Last House on the Left. Um, I love Steve's response of that he can be an inbred person that's going to be dangerous for Laura, but then she's just like, whatever, I like him anyway.
Yeah, it's like Eleanor and Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Sure, we're like distant third cousins, but fuck it. It's the God, I don't know. They got married 1910s, 1920s. Like, nobody disapproves of this. Let's go. I love you, cousin.
What a world.
They're distant. They're distant. So it doesn't count. They're distant once removed third cousins. Something like that.
You know what? If they are happy, I am going to be happy for them.
I'm sure they're happy as they're like buried deep in the grave together. And lastly, Steve, yes, Steve should get the point that Laura does not want him, but I think that he's showing a little bit of improvement by accepting the fact that, all right, Laura, you want to go out with Greg. That's fine. At the same time, I don't think he's doing himself any favors by making himself the rebound, because I guess they made a little deal at the end of this scene. Like, hey, if Greg is not going to be your guy, then you call me. And Laura is just like, sure, deal. And she said it pleasantly. She didn't say it like sarcastically or anything. So that was strange to me. I don't know if you thought anything of that.
I thought the whole interaction was strange. I'm typically not on Steve's side, and I actually am on Steve's side here. He doesn't know what the signal is now to his obsession with Laura, because she's gotten mixed signals back to him in the last 2 episodes.
You know what? You have a point. Leading him on with the whole science project thing, leading him on this time, as especially with how this episode ends with the fight. So yeah, this could be murky. Steve has an unhealthy obsession, but sometimes you got to tell Laura, like, what the hell are you doing? Like, you need to be consistent with your emphatic no to this nerd.
Yeah, you got to. We're watching a Netflix documentary in the making. Okay.
Yeah,
that is what's happening.
I agree. Anything else that you have for this scene?
That is it for me in the scene.
Now we get down to business. We are in the school for scene 2. The introduction of, I think, a favorite character of yours is in this scene.
Mr. Waldo. I love the fact that we start out with Waldo breaking into Steve's locker, which has an alarm system in it.
Willie
breaking into Steve's locker that has an alarm system in it. Oh my God. Fucking hilarious. I was dying laughing when it went off. I'm like, I needed that in high school.
Yeah. So Waldo apparently just gets introduced as like the sidekick to a bully before he becomes Eddie's wingman. And Larenz Tate as Willie, there is just something about him where he's just walking to a locker and I already think, oh, this motherfucker, menacing, like he does in Menace to Society. There you go. I referenced it. Oh, dog, right?
I love it. You referenced it. I love that he walks up and I was like, ooh, he's about to break into song.
Wait, how is that possible? Is there a movie that you saw where he broke into song? Was it Ray Charles or something?
No, that's never happened in real life. But it looked like he was going to break into song when he walked up. I'm like, please just sing to me.
All right. I did not get that at all. I mean, Larenz has always had this like sort of menacing kind of thing to himself back in the 90s. So automatically when I saw him going to a locker, I just knew that he was going to do something bad. And of course, it was Urkel's locker. Now, can we just say something about his hair? Larenz has the most awful hair in this episode. It is a messy, uncombed, pea-bald. There's no hairline. It is like that specific, young black boy hair where the boy clearly doesn't care and the mom has to scream at him a million times to get his fucking hair together so he doesn't go to school looking like that.
Yeah, I bet he had silver caps on his teeth as a kid. That's the kind of kid he looks like. Yeah.
And look, I mean, I've had family members who've had hair that grew like that when they were kids. It's not a pretty sight to see. But God, I mean, to see that hair and then to see Larenz's hair in Menace to Society, which is like much more full and braided and stuff, it's just an interesting difference, especially knowing that Menace to Society is only 3 years away from this episode.
Yes, we are waiting for this breakout moment when this man becomes my daddy.
Oh, dog. So Waldo is asking Willie what he's doing. Willie says he's breaking into Urkel's locker. We get the first taste of Waldo's hilarious, adorable dumbness when he's like, well, why are you doing that, Willie? And Willie says, because it's Tuesday. So then we get the alarm going off in Urkel's locker when Willie breaks in. And I love how Willie runs away, trying to act like he wasn't the one that did it when he plays the part of the bully. Like, if you're playing the part of the bully, like, stand up and own it. Like, you think you could break into this nerd's locker and beat him down. So just stand up and own it when the nerd shows up, right?
But that's not a bully. Bullies don't stand up and own things.
Yes and no. Like, I feel like they don't take accountability when it comes to like answering to authority. So, for example, if like a coach or teacher came up and be like, oh, who opened this locker? Who did this? Then the bully could easily be like, oh, that wasn't me. That was this person. But if it's just an interaction between the bully and the nerd, where the nerd has no one defending him, has no authority defending him especially, I feel like that is in the bully's benefit to just be like, yeah, fuck it. I did something. What are you going to do about it?
With the alarm going off, I can understand why he ran away. Because again, it's like, I'm not about to get caught. Are you kidding me? If there was no alarm, then it would make more sense that he would stay there for me.
Okay. All right. All right. So the alarm goes off in Urkel's locker when Willie breaks in. This is my main course, a reoccurring main course I have here. So we open up that Urkel locker. We see various pictures of Laura there, and the alarm is turned off. And oh my God, the icing on the cake. Urkel with his whole irritated, cartoony, grumpy grandpa look that he gives Willie from across the hall. And he walks toward them. Did you notice the way he was walking toward them? Like, he had his arms up. He was like, like he literally looked like a cartoon character as he was walking toward Willie. Just had his face all scrunched up. He was just like, you motherfucker, you were on my lawn. You ruined my statue of a parrot, and I'm gonna get you.
I was waiting for you to say, you darn kids on the sidewalk with your skateboards.
That too. Urkel just gave me like, you destroyed my garden with my beautiful lemons.
I mean, now we know what Urkel's limit is. Do not open his locker. If you open his locker, it is on.
And I love, this is the Urkel that is like improved from In a Jam, because in a Jam, like, we saw him like display courage, but it was like a frightened courage toward the bully. But now Urkel is just full on balls to the wall, like, no, motherfucker, you opened my locker, you got into my things, you trespass, I'm gonna stand up to you. So I think in this episode, really, like, Urkel provides a great example of standing up to the bully.
He does. He really does provide a good example. I am very proud of Urkel for what we see him display in this episode.
Yes. And the dessert in this scene, just more of the grumpy grandpa-ness. I mean, this in particular, this line, he was just like, oh, is anyone here willing to testify against this ruffian? And then no students around the hallway respond. And then Urkel says in disgust with his grumpy grandpa vibes, sheep, you're all sheep.
I love that he used ruffian. I have not heard ruffian since I was a child. So it made me feel good.
It reminds me of someone who's like dressed in a Shakespearean outfit, or it reminds me of potato chips.
The ruffles, I can see that. The ruffles all over the place.
Yeah. And then Laura enters. Her locker is, of course, next to Urkel's. Steve is in awe when he says, like, oh, hi, Laura. And then he does that weird thing where he kisses her picture after he says hi to her. So I thought that was a nice follow-up.
Steve is giving us our Helga vibes in this scene by kissing that picture. He knows he can't kiss her, but he's going to kiss his idol.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, God, Helga from A. Arnold. Arnold, you piece of shit. And then when he has his back turned, oh, Arnold, the love that you require of me is so untithable. Oh, Arnold. I'm just making up bullshit words, but you know what I mean.
Look,
Helga was just crazy.
You just nailed Helga to a T.
I love that show growing up. All right. So Laura encounters her crush, Greg Hutchin, in a shy puppy love way. Greg is in the scene here. And look, bravo to Laura. She had the same confidence here that she had on the phone for the first season, asking out Mark on that date. She just was like, let's cut to the chase, Greg. Would you like to go to the Sadie Hawkins dance with me or what?
I love this for Laura. When she was talking with him, the nice little pleasantries in the beginning of, hi, how are you? And she's like, look, take me to this dance and we're doing it.
There you go. And sometimes it can be crushing to not have your vulnerability work out for you. Before Greg gets a word out, we see Willie from behind him giving him like the finger cutting on the next sign, like, oh, Greg, if you ask Laura out, I'm going to kill you. And Greg starts his sentence with, Laura, I'd like to, but Laura is already feeling that rejection. She cuts him off. She's immediately shameful of her vulnerability not paying off. She leaves the scene. And automatically I was like, oh, I wonder what this killing sign is about, because I didn't actually expect this part of the story to come along. I didn't spoil by looking at the IMDb or the Hulu summary or whatever. I was genuinely not expecting that Willie was going to want to be with Laura.
Yeah, it's always the douchebag bully that wants to be with the church girl. And he's going to defend his like little thing. Wow. Minds just collided. Worlds collided. This is crazy. We're seeing two people who are mentally unstable fight for a girl who's stuck in a situation where she's being stalked.
Damn. Is there a term for that?
I don't even know. Oh my God.
The unstable love triangle.
I like it. The unstable love triangle. It's on the edge of a balance beam thing? It could just fall either way.
Yeah. But I feel like that's also repetitious, because aren't all love triangles unstable?
That sounds like a math joke, and once I read a book, I will understand it.
It's not a math joke because I'm terrible at math. It's just that I've seen love triangles all the time in sitcoms and dramas, and I fucking hate them, because I always want the two people that are fighting over the one person to be like, what are we doing? What are we doing? Like,
yes,
really?
What are we doing? This bed can hold 3. What are you doing?
I mean, look, if it's a threesome situation, that's another story. But if it's like, no, you and I are going to duel for this one person's love, it's like, no. If you have to duke it out, that is not worth it. That's just a little pathetic in my view.
God, I feel like Julius Caesar watching the gladiator games. I'm going to eat grapes while I'm going to have somebody else feed me grapes while I watch you fight it out.
Yeah, just some homeless person from across the street. Hey, I'm an adult. Let me feed you a grape. You'll trust me, right?
Are you hot?
There you go. If you're a hot adult who just happens to not have a home, then there you go. Feed me all the grapes that you want.
Yes, outside, because you're not coming in my home.
Yeah, understandable. All right, so Steve is outraged by Greg for turning down Laura. I love how Steve has on the coat with like the really big mittens. My God, these thick ass mittens that would turn anyone's hands into heat if they wore them indoors like Steve did.
You never had a pair like that.
I could wear those outdoors when it's like 2 degrees, but inside, Jesus Christ, I know it's Chicago in November, but Steve was in there for a long time before he left, or before that scene ended. So I was actually feeling for his hands. His hands would have been, roasted walnuts by then.
Steve knew what he was doing. He's keeping his fisticuffs ready. They're warmed up and ready to go. Which, by the way, those mittens are great. Get a pair of them while you're door dashing when it's cold out, and you'll be in heaven.
Oh, I can't do mittens, Andrew. I like to do the finger gloves.
Oh, see, I can't do that. I believe that segregation should not be a thing, including for our fingers.
No, I'm just a guy that likes to stretch out his bones, his muscles as much as possible. I have my fingers all bunched up together. It's like another reminder of like when I have my toes bunched up together anytime I use my damn right foot on that gas pedal, because it's on the gas pedal for 12 plus hours a day. So any opportunity that I have to stretch my bones and muscles for what is very tedious work, I'm going to take advantage of it.
Okay, understandable.
Yeah, as you can tell, I'm a very irritated, cranky man. So Greg reveals to Steve that Willie wanted to go to the dance with Laura. Laura told him no. So now Willie is threatening any guy who asks Laura out that he'll end up breathing in between his ears. This is an insult that I've never heard before. Have you?
He's gonna punch your nose to the back of your face.
That's another way of saying it?
I guess. I mean, all I could imagine is you're gonna be breathing through your ears. You're getting punched in the center of your face.
Yeah. I was also thinking, like, Willie, maybe Laura doesn't want to go out with you because you have really bad hair.
That could be it. Laura could be that, and I would be like, "Girl, you had a bang, so you got to like understand."
Yeah. I mean, where would you take Greg Hudson's? I don't know what you would call it. Greg Hudson's little white Jerry curl, white man's afro thing, whatever he has there, or would you take Willie's young black boy uncombed pea bald meth?
Because I am reckless, I'm taking Willie.
Okay. All right. You're in for an adventure.
Yeah, I want to go for an adventure. I feel like with Willie, we're probably going to end up maybe at an Applebee's, like a very risky place like that. With the other boy, we'll probably eat like school lunch, and I don't know if I'm okay with that.
Hey, you know what? They call it Wet Willie for a reason. So with Willie, you'll be, I don't know, you'll be dripping wet with something. I don't know. They don't call it wet Greg.
They don't call it wet school. Did you not have Wet Willies happen to you?
Oh, I think Wet Willies were almost done to me, but I think I've successfully avoided them. But I've not had Wet Gregs.
That just sounds like eggs, and I don't want it.
Wet Gregs or Wet Willies?
Wet Gregs. Oh no.
Yeah. No, you don't want to have them. They're really raunchy, rancid eggs that will make anyone's head turn. Anyway. So I am actually surprised by Urkel being outraged by Willie's idea of making Laura go to the dance with him, with Urkel. And I love his line, "Why, that swine?" And he does his cartoony, grumpy grandpa walk again to stand up to Willie. And, you know, Urkel is at Willie. He's just like, "Oh, I've heard a lot of crazy stuff in my time, but forcing Laura to go out with me, well, that's despicable." I'm doing a terrible Sylvester the Cat impression from Looney Tunes, but that's what Steve did. He used the Sylvester the Cat impression. You remember?
I do, because I called it Daffy Duck. Oh my God.
Oh my God. It could be, though. It could be, because they do have that same lisp. It could be either Sylvester or Daffy Duck.
Oh my God. See, I was like, is it Daffy Duck? And I was like, there's another character. I know. Thank you, Sylvester's who I was trying to think of.
So the Looney Tunes writers, they clearly have no creativity, because Daffy Duck and Sylvester the Cat, they have the same lisp, and it's disgusting.
It really is. I can understand it for Daffy because he doesn't have lips. For Sylvester, I never got his lisp.
Yeah, you have no excuse. You're a cat. Do better. Okay, you're supposed to be smart. All right. So Steve is unstrapping his giant mittens. He's ready to fight Willie, and here's where I'm noticing that those mittens are kind of looking like boxing gloves now. They're just so thick looking.
They are.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I didn't pay attention to that part of it because my favorite part of the episode is coming up.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes.
Was it like now where I was looking at the TV screen just saying yes as Urkel fucking bitch punched Willie in the face hard with those gloves? Like, I just loved it.
When he slaps Willie with the glove, that is my appetizer main course. That moment alone, I laughed so hard.
Same. I mean, for me, it wasn't even a slap. It was just like a hard bitch punch with those gloves. It was just Urkel. He, again, has balls. He does not give a crap. And Willie looked like he was scared for a moment when he put his hand to his face in shock at what Urkel did. And then shit got real. Willie just put back on his bully stance and was just like, "Urkel, you are dead meat." And then Steve quickly goes back to the cowardly nerd, and he runs behind this pudgy white kid who seems to be okay-ish with using Steve as or using himself as a shield on Steve. You remember that kid?
I do. I remember, but I have to go back because the line after Steve slaps Willie is my dessert. Waldo steps in after Willie looks at him and says, he just slapped me with his glove. Waldo's like, he's got another one. And I screamed.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what? You don't want to know what he does with the other one. So Waldo is on something there. He is onto something. Steve certainly came to play. And
Oh, yeah.
Urkel,
Steve is asking this boy to hold him back. That was funny too.
yeah. So Steve goes from cowardly, and then he gets his balls back, and then he, like you said, asks this boy to hold him back, and he jumps on Willie, and then you hear the sounds of fight from the other students in the hallway, and then suddenly this Coach Redding comes in with his weird New York accent. He comes in hot with the sounds of fight, and he's just like, all right, now break it up between Steve and Willie. And I just found it funny that he didn't even take a second to like see what the noise was about. He just, boom, like fight. He just comes into the door like, all right. Like he knew just from the sheer noise of fight that he had to break up some fight.
Well, yeah, he's a teacher who's been there for a long time. He's like, I'm through with this crap. You kids are always fighting. Did you ever have a gym teacher like him?
Who had to break up a fight?
Like him, who just would come in and take charge of everything.
Yeah, I think in 8th grade, I mean, I had someone who was appropriately called Mr. Masters, who just had this very like, yeah, who's here to come try out for weight club? Like that kind of guy. And I did, and I was okay with it.
Those are the guys who motivate you to do things.
Yeah. So they're there for a reason. And then the fight does break up. Urkel calls Willie a Philistine who was going to get the pummeling he deserves. And I was along with Willie. I was like, what the fuck does the word Philistine mean?
Oh my God. I know exactly what it is because I went to church. So.
What is it?
Philistines are people from the Phyllis, whatever, in Jesus's book because they were like heathens or something.
That's what I thought too. And when I looked up the definition, it's told me something completely different. It says a Philistine is a person who refuses to see the beauty or value of art or culture. So related to the heatheny that you're talking about?
The what?
The heatheny, the heathenism that you're talking about.
Oh yeah, that is because they love the way things look and they're all into art and beauty.
There you go. All right. So Coach Redding could have been a proper role model and just said like, hey, kids, go to detention, or just give him some speech about like, you know, violence is not the answer. But the coach with the New York accent, of course, has to be the one to be like, you know what? Here's how you settle your differences. Book the gym for one random day and box. Can you imagine any school coach saying that?
Yes, because one of mine did, and I thoroughly support this decision. I think that is one of the best things to do if kids are going to fight in school.
So what does that teach them?
That teaches them that, hey, we can fight each other in a safe environment, get out the rage, and then work on whatever we need to solve after we get it out.
So there's no value in talking and having a conversation and trying
to that afterwards. After you get out the feeling to fight, because if you want to fight. Do it, but let's do it in a safe way. We can get all of that out and then actually have a discussion after that.
Okay. Well, I don't know. I'm an anti-violence person, so I advocate for no fighting whatsoever, but that's just me. So Willie is betting that Urkel will not show, and tough, grumpy grandpa bravado Urkel is just like, oh, you know, I'll be there, Fuffner, with bells on. I remember what. So Steve does the grumpy cartoonish walk exiting the hallway, and I'm like, all right, bravo, Urkel. Yay, you have balls, and I'm so proud of you. I'm rooting for you to win this fight now that it's happening by force. And Waldo is genuinely asking Willie if he really thinks Urkel wears bells, and Willie just slams the locker on Waldo's face. And I was like, how the fuck did that not hurt Waldo's face? Because you saw Waldo, he was just like, all right. Like he was just normal. Like it didn't affect him at all.
I mean, it's Waldo. Waldo doesn't feel pain. So he's just like, okay, it's time to go.
Waldo Geraldo Faldo. Anything else for the scene here?
Just so everybody knows, if you don't watch the episode, Steve won round 1. That fight was all his.
Yeah. As for everything else, well, that's up for debate. All right, we go to Silver's gymnasium for scene 3. Steve is training with Carl. I was wondering if Carl was going to ever show up in this episode, and then turns out he has a very insignificant role as Steve's trainer. And I still am of the opinion, I was like, oh, this just seems like a very childish school kid fight. We're taking it seriously. We're going to a gym like it's like fucking Rocky or something, and Carl has to train Steve. I wanted Carl to at least be the adult that Coach Redding wasn't, in my opinion, who said like, hey, Steve, son, maybe this is not the best way to straighten things out. But here we are. And I think for a moment, Steve didn't he have this Muhammad Ali impression going on? He's just like, oh, I'm ready. I'm a mean fighting Urkel machine.
He did. Steve gave us Muhammad Ali, and I loved it.
Yeah. What did you think about this scene overall?
I love it because we get a mention of one of my favorite things that Urkel does, the Urkel shuffle, and then later on we actually see it. But I was like, yay, they mentioned shuffling, and this is going to be my moment.
Yeah. So Carl tries to act like the voice of reason by asking Steve if he really wants to go through this fight, and Steve spits out quite a line with a lot of P's. I have to, Carl. Laura's honor has been affected by that pugnacious pile of putrid pond poop.
The alliteration was amazing.
Yeah, Jaleel, don't know how he does it, but he does. So Steve is totally ready for this, despite the fact that he cannot get through the boxing ring smoothly. My God, one would logically try to go through the spaces in between the handles, but no, he just tries to like walk towards it as if they're just going to magically open for him.
Have you ever gotten into a boxing ring, Shawn?
No, but I would think that you just go through the spaces in between the handles. Is that what they're called, handles?
I call them ropes.
That too.
But I just always wondered, I've only gotten into one boxing ring and I fell getting inside of it. So I've just always wondered, has anybody else had that happen? But the way Urkel does it is just hilarious. I feel like he was breaking character laughing, getting stuck in those ropes.
So were you like Urkel? Were you like about to get ready to fight somebody? Is that what got you into the boxing ring?
No, my dad was there training and I just got in. And it was just a fun little moment. I was like, oh, my dad's up here. What are we going to do?
And he just fell when in the moment.
When I get inside, I fell. I hit my head and I started crying.
How old were you? You seem like you were young.
I think it was like 7 or 8. I wasn't old.
Carl is asking Steve to. God, I love this. Great physical comedy moment. So Carl is asking Steve to show him his fighting stance. Steve shows up like this very tense stance with his fists and arms tightened up against his body. Carl is asking Steve for his fighting style, and Steve just frantically punches without any smoothness or control whatsoever. And then Carl is like, oh, Steve, just like run from your opponent instead of trying to hit him, which I beg to differ. Is that a good strategy? I feel like, at the risk of sounding corny, talk to your opponent, have therapy with them in the boxing ring.
I would love to see this boxing match, John.
I know.
Your form of boxing would probably be incredibly thrilling to me as somebody who is a sports fanatic. Like, I would be like, yes, therapize that person in the corner. How does that make you feel? And I would be in heaven to watch that.
Can you imagine all these macho toxic men like coming to like a UFC fight expecting blood shed, and all they see is just two men having tears and talking it out in the middle of the stage, and the audience is just like, what?
I get the feeling everybody at first is going to be like, what? And then everybody's going to start unraveling their trauma in the arena, and they're going to have an event where they have to call all these therapists just to help these men go home.
I'm all for it. My reoccurring dessert, one of my desserts, whatever you want to call it. Either way, there is a big dessert that comes in this scene. It is Carl telling Steve about the jab, how to do the jab, and Steve just straight up punches Carl right on the nose without any warning. And my first thought was like, oh God, that must have hurt. Whoa, that came out of nowhere. And then when it just kept happening, that's when I just kept laughing harder. Like, Carl is telling Steve about the left hook, and Steve just does the same thing, straight punch to the nose. And you see Carl like trying to keep his patience, trying to not lose it. And all Steve can say is like, oh, sorry, just reflex.
I thought it was so hilarious. I was waiting for Carl to like hit him one time.
Yeah.
He never did. And it's like, oh, this is hilarious.
It probably wouldn't have turned out well because it's a grown ass man hitting a kid. So that probably is a good idea that he did not hit him. And even when I know it's coming, like the third time, it happens again. Carl tries to keep his cool. He's telling Steve about the right cross, and Steve does the same thing. Boom! Straight punch into the nose. And instead of hitting the kid, Carl made the smart idea and just said, let's just call it a day.
Carl did the smart decision. I love this little scene because I love boxing. I think boxing is such a relaxing and friendly sport to watch that when I see jokes of it like this, it's even funnier.
What makes it relaxing and friendly? Because I don't really see a lot of real boxing matches. My knowledge is only like the Rocky movies, and, they seem pretty bloody and punchy. So what comes off as relaxing and friendly to you?
You're getting out that aggression, so you get into a more calm space. Everybody is on equal ground. These are your hands. Let's put them in gloves and swing them at each other. So you're having like that very emotional, close bonding relationship with another person.
God, you make such a violent sounding sport sound like such a kumbaya, peaceful thing. How do you do that, Andrew?
Because it's what it is. Once you take away the gore or the shock value of seeing somebody get their face rearranged and you realize that this is just another person and they're just sharing their emotions in the ring, but they do it with their fist, not words.
Okay. That's an opinion. That's interesting. Anything else you have for this scene?
Nope, that's it. Yeah.
You sure? Sure?
I am sure. I just want to read the note I had there and I'm like, oh no, that's about the jab gag.
Okay. All right. Scene 4. We're in the living room, and this is where we get back to our B story of Fletcher and Estelle. They are in love. Another dessert in this scene. I thought it was very strange that Carl just immediately popped up in this scene. I think we had this conversation for like a first season episode. If you are in a scene in a completely different plot and you show up in the next scene in a completely different plot, it kind of rocks me to my core. It's like, what? No, give me some time to adjust, Carl. Like, how the fuck did you go from gymnasium getting punched out by Steve to suddenly being jealous of Estelle and Fletcher in the next scene?
I see you screaming at your television, John, like, what day is it? Why is Carl here?
Yeah. Give me my the lactose-free yogurt, please. I'm old. I need my time to sleep. Anyway, what did you think about this scene?
I love it. Okay, I fangirl when we saw Fletcher first come in the episode because I was excited. I was like, wait, I didn't realize we got Fletcher in season 2. And so this scene of Fletcher and Mama Winslow coming home from their date, I just thought was the funniest thing because I can see this happening in real life, and it does. And you see people on social media when their mom or dad is dating something new, and they're like, oh, I hate this person, and they don't even know.
Yeah. And Fletcher is a nice guy. He is so great. I love old couples getting all cute. There's just something about like when you have this point in your life, like late in your life, maybe you have deceased spouses and you just want to give love another try. You're like, hey, I don't have much time left on this earth. Let me give love another try. And when it happens, well, for old people, I think it's just the cutest thing ever. It is very strange. I already read that note. What the hell, John? Dessert. My dessert in this scene was just me laughing the fuck out loud when Carl was looking very flabbergasted. Did you see him in the background looking very flabbergasted at like Estelle and Fletcher? This is mind blowing to him because he's seeing this for the first time. They're having a very make out goodnight kiss, these two old people. And Carl is just walking toward Estelle and Fletcher. He's throwing his magazine down on the couch. He's just like, fuck is my old ass mama doing right now?
Carl, I love his reaction, but I need to call you to the carpet, sir, and just say you just kissed another woman in this house. So don't you dare judge Estelle.
Did he though? Did he kiss another woman? I mean, I think Loretta made the move on him.
Did he tell her to get her lips off of him?
No.
So kiss her.
No, but he pushed her off of him.
No, he didn't. Not when she was all up on his cheek. You kissed Loretta by proxy by not getting that woman off your cheek immediately.
There was no French kissing. Loretta seductively kissed Carl on the cheek, And
John, that is the operative word right there. Piss.
yes, yes. And maybe Carl took a second before being like, oh, but the point is that he eventually took his body away from Loretta. Eventually, look, any man who is straight and it can be easily weakened by an attractive woman would take that second of like, oh, before they come to their senses and say, you know what, this is not right. So I will defend Carl on that.
In that moment where you did come to your senses, you were effectively kissing her.
Okay,
So
well,
don't judge your mom for coming in kissing a man.
okay. Well, I mean, this is completely different. I mean, his mom has every right to be in love now that the husband's been dead for God knows how long. Carl needs to go back to therapy and figure out this whole dad thing because clearly he's not over, his dead dad.
He's not over it, and we could have got a boxing match between Fletcher and Carl. Now that would have been good.
I would have wanted Fletcher to win. Fletcher's a sweet guy. I'm sorry. I like Carl, but Fletcher, I'm going for Fletcher.
I want Fletcher to knock him out. Well, Mike Tyson him.
All right. Carl giving Estelle and Fletcher the hem to get their attention. And then he gives that classic forced polite smile as he says to Fletcher, hey, I'm Carl Winslow. Who the hell are you?
A very nice greeting. I think that would be the proper greeting of any son watching his mom kiss a man.
Mm-hmm. And then Fletcher is mentioning that Estelle has told him plenty about Carl. Carl passively aggressively is just like, well, my mama hasn't told me anything about you. And then Carl physically brings his mama over to his side with his arm as he threatens Fletcher by being like, hey, but by the way, I'm a cop. And I was like, really? Carl, really? Threatening the life of your grown-ass mother's new boy toy? Come on now.
I mean, now it's going to sound weird when I say this. I actually supported that. That was something that I have done for friends. I'm like, I know who you are when I see them meet random people.
In case shit goes down south, in case someone gets hurt who shouldn't be hurt, yeah, you got to pull out your AK.
I am all for checking somebody who's coming after your friends. You got to know who they are. So I'm all for this.
All right. Audience is applauding, by the way, at Fletcher and Estelle politely greeting each other a good night as Fletcher exits. I thought it was a little strange, but I also kind of understood it because maybe it was the audience's way of saying, you know what, Fletcher and Estelle, good for you two for standing your ground and still being romantic.
They supported. The audience was totally on their side.
There you go. And, oh, God, great line from Estelle. Mama Winslow always loves it when she has these lines. I was total black man. I was just like, tell him. When Carl gets all defensive and says like, Mama, you were kissing that man. Mothers don't do that stuff. And then Estelle comes back with, if mothers didn't do that stuff, you would not be here.
That dose of reality that she hit him with.
Oh, my God. And then lastly, Carl accepted Estelle's love for Fletcher, I think rather quickly. Do you think it was nicely paced or did you think like, oh, okay, like there was no like gradual transition to that?
I don't think that he accepted it. I think that he just put on a fake face of, oh, okay, because at the end of the scene, he's asking Estelle for information to go run a background check on him. Yep. So I feel like he was just like, I'm just going to pretend it's okay.
Yeah. All right, Mama, I'll accept your love. Oh, by the way, I'm going to run a make on this guy. That's the term that he put. And spoiler alert, I mean, if you fast forward to like the marriage of Estelle and Fletcher, like Carl still has a hard time accepting that. So yes, you're right. Carl is not going to accept this romance very easily. Anything else for this scene?
No, that's it for me on this one.
I think that wraps up our B story. We go to scene 5 where here we go. This is the big match. Urcle versus Fuffner. What the fuck is a last name like that? Have you ever wanted a last name like Fuffner?
So because the way you said it so fast, I've been hearing Fuffner.
I like that too.
And I'm like, is that his name?
Nope. Think of a pillow fluffing. Fuffner.
Fluffner. I mean, Fluffner sounds like a pretty fun person name.
Yeah, but take out the L and that's his actual last name. Fuffner. Fuffner.
Fuffner.
Yeah.
Okay, this would be somebody in school I would only ever use their last name.
All right. Hey, Fuff man. Fuff me. Fuff you. So automatically I was like, why the hell are grown-ass women, Harriet and Rachel, spending valuable adult time watching two immature boys fight? I mean, I got Laura and Greg and all the other students being there, but I was like, Harry and Rachel, like they would just like take time out of their day to just watch this. I didn't believe it.
Yeah, it was very weird that Harry and Rachel were there. I'm like, this is kids fighting. But then, I mean, some adults, they like to see a steel cage match. So, hey.
Yeah, they were coming as if it was like the Laura soccer tournament or Steve made the town basketball team. And it's like, no, Willie and Steve had a tiff in the hallway and decided to take it to the ring. So Greg is trying to get Laura to speak to him, but Laura is not budging and tells Greg it bugs her that Steve is the only guy with guts to stand up to Willie. And I mean, I'm in between on that. On the one hand, again, I appreciate Greg for being the nonviolent Martin Luther King Jr. guy. But on the other hand, I'm going to say that Willie is a punk. He needs to be shown the door. So I think I'm kind of getting on your side here.
Like the boxing match itself, I still support it. I think it is very constructive for people who are in this type of situation, especially someone who's a bully, to learn better ways to get out that energy. I like that Laura stood up and was like, no, this is ridiculous. Steve is the only person who could stand up to him. Like, I need you to have a little more backbone, Greg. The opposite of that for Greg, though, I can see as well, where it's like, okay, well, I'm not going to fight. You can't force me to fight somebody. So there's so many things happening in the scene where just like, I want to support each side here. And I feel like I'm just bouncing around to everybody.
Yeah, that's okay. I think Greg doesn't want to mess up his hair.
Yeah, his hair was really good, and he had a cute jacket, so I don't blame him.
Willie, on the other hand, he fights because he doesn't care about his hair.
Willie fights like he's ugly.
Yes, indeed. All right, so the students that are in the audience, they're surprisingly on the right side. I mean, this is just like last episode where the students were all over Steve Urkel, like, hey, Steve, be a part of my science project. I love you, Steve. Oh. And this episode, Steve walks in with his boxing uniform. He's Steve the Iron Man Urkel. He gets all the cheers. Willie, meanwhile, walks in with his boxing uniform. He gets booed. So yeah, there you go. Steve is getting the popular person treatment in school lately.
He is, and this is where the coach should have stepped in and said, we're not doing any of that bullying shit. Everybody's here to fight and get it out in a constructive way. Let's do this easily, people.
Oh, okay. So you're saying the coach should have been like, no booing for Willie, like it.
Yeah,
a fair fight. Okay.
Mm-hmm. No booing. This isn't about any of that. I brought you here so you're not violently attacking each other in an uncontrolled environment. This is actually now a sport.
Yeah. What did you think about Steve's multicolored boxing robe?
Have you seen Rocky 3?
I've seen all of them. Yeah.
So Apollo Creed's character when they're running on the beach and he has on the yellow spandex tights?
Of course I do.
That is all I thought of when I saw Steve. I was like, oh my God, this is hilarious.
He's got that Apollo Creed shorts on the beach running vibe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He had like Iron Man Urkel on the back. And then Carl and Eddie is spotting Steve. Are they called spotters? The people that support the boxer?
I think they are. I'm pretty sure they're called spotters.
Okay. Well, Carl and Eddie, they're wearing the uniformed white shirts with the rainbowish colors on the sleeves. And I'm just realizing Eddie has not been in this episode up until this point.
It is our first appearance, and when I saw him, I was like, whoa, they did the Judy on him.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of sad. So Estelle is asking from the audience to Rachel if Steve likes the robe her and Fletcher made him. And I was like, one, wow, Estelle and Fletcher, even though they haven't known each other that long, they suddenly symbiotically just made a rope together for Steve for this. And number two, again, more grown-ass adults watching kids fight in a school gym.
These are my kind of adults.
Sure. The coach who broke up the hallway fight ends up being the referee. What do you think about that?
Very happy about it. This coach was excited for this. I think he's been waiting to see some kids fight.
All right. I thought it was weird. I thought it would just be a different person as a referee, but there you go. Coach Redding, double duty man. And I love his announcements. Here we go. He's like 142-pound Hurricane Willie Fuffner and 97-pound soaking wet Iron Man Urcle.
He gave me Lieutenant Murtaugh vibes, and that is why I loved him so much. He's the best announcer ever.
Where the fuck is Murtaugh? We haven't seen him in a bit.
He's going to be back.
Yep.
Very excited.
All right. Next episode?
Not next episode, I don't think.
Damn it. All right. So I almost thought that Willie got Urkel for good when the bell rang and Urkel charged, and then Willie gave him that first good punch that really got him dizzy, almost to a knockout. What did you think?
I thought he was going to go down. I thought he was going to go down and do that like little Urkel spin down, and I was waiting for it because it was going to be a hilarious moment.
And then Carl recommends what you loved, the Urkel Shuffle, which got my attention, just that title. It's basically Urkel doing all the dance movements with his feet while successfully ducking Willie's punches. Very Muhammad Ali of him. I loved it.
I loved it. This is our first time seeing the Urkel Shuffle, and it's going to get better and better.
Yes. And as Willie breaks for a little bit to figure out a strategy, Urkel better be careful, as you can see him really feeling himself. He's got all this dancing, arm flexing, the goofy faces. He's doing a moonwalk around the ring. And I'm telling Urkel from my TV screen, I'm like, that's when the opponent can strike. Stay focused.
You see, John, you're a boxing connoisseur.
I am. I should have been Rocky's assistant, but I wasn't born yet. So that was kind of my fault.
I can see you in Rocky now.
Well, you know what? I could have been the assistant, a very young teenage assistant for like Rocky 6. Was it Rocky 6? Rocky Balboa. Remember the 2006 Rocky movie? This was before this was before the Creed movies came out. I could have been that guy.
See, I could see you being that guy, but I could see you in Rocky 3 with the Russian. And I could see you being like, I'm here for boxing. Very serious, straight.
That's actually Rocky 4. Rocky 3 is with Mr. T.
See, I love that you know the Rocky Encyclopedia. Rocky 4.
Rocky 1 and 2, Apollo Creed. Rocky 3, Mr. T. Rocky 4, the Russian. Rocky 5, we don't speak of that.
This is why you knew right away when you said that person who did the Rocky theme song was going to be a part of an interview. And I was like, Tiger, that response text message came from you in 0.2 seconds. Like, no, Andrew, not Eye of the Tiger.
Yeah. Survivor. Oh God, wouldn't they have been a great interview? Because I think that's who sings Eye of the Tiger. No, Bill Conti, who does the gonna fly now. Apparently he has a Family Matters credit, and we're still trying to get him on the show. So fingers crossed. Yes. All right, here we go. And of course, Willie took Urkel's joking around to give him a good punch that is knocking off his balance for a bit. Carl, that line, Steve, keep going. And Urkel is just like, I can't. He broke my shuffle.
Oh, this is too good.
It is. And I love how Steve thinks a good punch in the face would do it for Willie. But Willie showed no sign of being affected. Remember, he just smiled, and Urkel was just like, whoa. And then 3 good punches in a row from Willie. That's what Urkel got. And Steve looks like he's about to be knocked out. I guess Laura feels the need to come over and give Steve a last-minute pep talk. I thought it was going to be, Steve, you can do it. Keep going. But Laura was like, Steve, just throw in the towel, please. Like, this is not your fight anymore.
Laura did something that I think we should appreciate. She came in with the dose of reality. Like, this is stupid now, Steve. We know that you cannot win, and it is more manly and adult to accept that and just say the fight is over, and then we're done.
Yeah, but Steve is his clumsy, chivalrous, so-called manly self. He wants to keep going. He's just like, oh, don't worry, my little love. We'll talk late. And then just as he was about to say later, Willie cuts him off with a nice, hard punch. Carl is also telling Steve to stay down at this point. Laura is telling Steve to stay down again. Steve is asking what was said as he's like dizzy and out of it. And then remember that synced up moment from the audience? She said, stay down.
They all deserve an IMDb credit. It was perfect timing.
Yeah. Where's that IMDb credit? 55 people, collective audience scream. And then you ready for the junk food?
What's your junk food?
The cheesy thing that Greg did where he stood up before that last big punch from the audience. He tells Willie that, you know what? If you're going to fight Urkel, you're going to have to fight me too. And then Willie is initially like, whatever, dude, I'm not afraid of you. But then the rest of the students, like this Dead Poet Society moment, like, no, you're going to fight me, and you're going to fight me, and you're going to fight me. And I hated this moment because it was like blurring the line between an organized, fairly set boxing match and some, unorganized school bully picking on a kid in a hallway situation. Like if it was that, if we were still in the hallway from scenes earlier and Willie was really giving it to Steve, okay, I can get like all the classmates standing up for him in the way that the classmates at Leroy's in the Ending Jam episode should have stood up for Steve. But in this case, this is where I can kind of agree with you. It's like, no, guys, this is a boxing match. It's between two people. Let's keep it that way. There's a winner, there's a loser. We don't need all that extra stuff.
We don't need all that extra stuff. It is junk food for me. Because what's the kid's name? Gary?
The crush of Laura?
Yeah.
Greg.
Greg says, sure, you fight Steve. I will fight you. He didn't jump in to stop the fight. He didn't jump in to say that this is enough. He said, after you're done. So you're going to wait till this little boy gets beat up and the bully says he's finished to step in and fight? This was pointless. I thought it was like, oh, okay, what are we teaching these kids in school? Because it seems like it always takes a bully to beat up Steve or another person who is classified as a nerd to be taken advantage of or laughed at for you guys to actually learn a lesson here.
Right. So we could have taken that part out. We could have just had Steve simply lose and learn from it and still find a silver lining in it. That would have been just fine. Waldo, God, I mean, I cannot wait for the funny moments that he's going to give us as we continue on with this show. The way he talks after seeing almost the whole audience stand. Remember? What you going to do now, Willie? And Willie cannot say this is a fair match between him and Urkel. He just says, run, and then he exits, and then Waldo is just like, all right, me too, Willie. Waldo almost sounds like an Uncle Tom for a moment.
He really does. I love Waldo's his little tidbits and morsels are hilarious, but he does have the Uncle Tom voice when he talks in this first episode where we really see him.
Does it tone down? Because I feel like he does keep that delivery, right?
I think he keeps the same cadence in his delivery, but he gets a little smarter for Waldo.
I cannot wait for that. All right, so we end the boxing match that had a really pointless ending. No winner or loser. Well, at this point, no winner or loser was declared. Just a scared boy running away who could have easily won, and a dizzy Urkel who could have easily accepted a loss. So Laura decides to lead Steve on by being so impressed by his bravery in the ring that she asked him to the Sadie Hawkins dance. She basically looks at him like, oh my God, my Prince Charming hero, Greg, forget about you. I'm going to take the guy who stood up for me. And then probably next episode, she's going to tell him to fuck off.
That's what's going to happen, and Greg's going to be holding her hand.
Yeah. God damn you, Laura. God damn you, Steve, and God damn you, Laura. You too. I have problems with you too.
This dysfunction, it only continues to build.
Yeah. What did you think about Carl projecting Steve Iron Man Urkel as the winner by principle? What the fuck does that mean?
Wait, what?
Yeah. The winner by principle, the morally superior winner. Look, I mean, yes, Steve is morally better than Willie, like outside of the ring, but in the ring, Steve lost, Willie won. We could have made it as simple as that. But no, because Steve is the kinder guy, the winner by principle.
You know what? Steve should have not been declared the winner by principle. Oh my God. I am just remembering him saying that. I don't understand why he got in the ring and did that. But he's a cop, so he needed to give us a good ending. So I guess maybe that was his goal.
I guess. I didn't like it. Poo-poo on you, Carl. Poo-poo.
I'm very sad about it.
Anything else about this scene?
No, that is the end of the scene for me.
All right. That's the end of the episode, y'all. Well, Andrew, do you mind explaining the delicious star ratings?
Let's talk about these stars, y'all. So we're going to rate every episode at the end of it on a star system of 0 to 3. 0 stars means that it was not worth us watching at all. It's not an episode that we recommend that you're going to watch because it was not worth the time. For us to get up into the star numbers, 1 star is going to be a respectively good episode for its season. And 2 stars, it's going to be an episode that's worth watching. It's excellent. And it's going to be time for you to watch it. It's worth all your time. And then 3 stars, it's an exceptional episode encompassing everything we love about Family Matters. It's the quality of the product, the mastery of the line delivery, the personality and vibe of our cast, the value of our time of watching it, and do we have a common ground about the episode?
What did you think?
It's a 0.
Damn, you were harsh on this episode. I thought you liked some parts of it.
Oh, the parts that I did like was just Steve slapping him with the glove. And then Waldo saying, watch out, he's got another. Yeah.
Wow. So what did you not like about it that made it a hard 0 for you?
This is a hard 0 for me because I didn't find myself thrilled to watch it. This was one of those ones where as I'm watching it, I had to like rewind it multiple times because I was like, I'm getting so distracted by other things that are a little more interesting. And I say that because of the pacing of the episode of what we got. We got all 5 scenes that seemed to just fly like that. There wasn't much substance in the other story. I forgot what the other story was about.
Estelle and Fletcher?
Well, Estelle and Fletcher. Yeah, there wasn't much substance there that I really wanted to enjoy because I would have loved if the other story with Estelle and Fletcher would have just been the entire episode. Give us some hijinks of Carl and Steve spying on Estelle on her date. Something like that I would have freaking loved. It just didn't tap into what I wanted out of an episode.
Okay, that's fair enough. Or maybe Loretta trying to be a homewrecker in between Estelle and Fletcher.
That would have at least made me bump it up to a 1.2.
Yeah, I'm going to give this a 2. I think that this deserves a 2 stars. I thought it was there was plenty of well-done physical comedy from Urkel, especially when it came to standing up to Willie in the hallway. That specific grumpy grandpa walk that he gave was just great. Carl and Estelle had great comedic moments in that Fletcher story. I cannot wait to see how that Estelle and Fletcher story progress. And then we get a nice introductory taste into the hilarity and dumbness that is Waldo Geraldo Faldo. Shawn Harrison. I am so excited. I think this is dumb Eddie officially leaving the building because once Waldo comes in, we're going to gradually see Eddie get just a little bit smarter. Just a little bit.
Just a little bit, because he's only got 2 years left of being in high school, and then he's got an adult.
Yeah. So I thought this was a decent episode. I think it's worth rewatching. I think it holds up well. Only things that are keeping this episode a 3 for me are Rachel and Eddie. I don't think they're needed at all. Eddie didn't need to be Carl's assistant spotter. I mean, he could have easily, because he didn't even really have anything to say. He was just like, oh, I'm just going to wear a shirt with my dad and support Steve. So Eddie was useless. Maybe the show's writers were trying to figure out what to do with him. So he didn't need to be there. Rachel didn't really add much. I mean, I know she made the shirt. That was really the only value that she added. But other than that, it's like, oh, okay. You're just going to ask Harriet how her day at work was in the beginning of the show. And then you were responsible for making a shirt. And then you have a line about that at the end. I don't know. So Rachel and Eddie didn't really need to be needed. And that cheesy ending that we saw, the students offering to fight Willie on Urkel's behalf. Nah, didn't care for that. So if those things weren't there, then I would have given this a solid 3. But this is like a middle of the road, not so bad too. This was a decent episode for me.
Okay, I can see it. Maybe if Little Richie came in and held one up the ring parts, I think you would have made it a 3.
No, you would have made it a 3 because you are a sucker for Little Richie. I don't really care that much about Little Richie.
If Little Richie came out, it was like, we're starting round 1 and had the card in his hand. Great. 3 all the way.
Yeah, for you. Hey, you know what? You know what would have made this episode a 3? If it was 3J holding a card in the ring. You would have been like 0.0.0.
If 3J appeared in this episode, our recording would have been as follows. Hello, y'all. Welcome to the Delicious Recap. I'm Jon Francois. I am Andrew Shepard, and I am done.
You're not even using your stage name. You're just like, fuck it. I'm using my government name. I'm signing off for good. That's it. I'm retiring.
There you go. You guys get one of the names off one of my passports.
Wow. Oh, man. You really hate 3J that much.
It's not that I hate 3J. Hate is a very, very strong word. It's that I do wish that we were never introduced to the character.
Okay. Okay. So you strongly dislike him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. The same way Grits. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Delicious. You know where you can find us. Listen, subscribe, follow, rate, review the Delicious Recap wherever you get your podcasts. Please give us a star rating, a 5-star rating on Spotify. That would be great. Leave us a nice review on Apple Podcasts if you like the podcast. We would love that even more. Questions, comments, concerns, feedback, you can send them to us at thedeliciousrecap@gmail.com. And we are everywhere on social media. I mean, literally just search The Delicious Recap on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, Reddit, TikTok, Patreon. Speaking of which, did you know that you could get season 2 episode recaps and interviews early for just $5 a month? Patreon.com/delicious recap. That is patreon.com/delicious recap. Andrew, tell the people how they can follow you.
You can follow me on TikTok at Ajay Vandertunt. I am live and there and living my life online. I am reckless and do not know what happens from the moment I wake up. So if you get on my TikTok, just be prepared for that.
Are you half messy, half demure?
Demure always, messy, of course.
Okay. That should be like your tagline under like your handle on TikTok at AJ Vandertunt. Messy always, demure. What was it? What did you say again?
Demure always, messy, of course.
Okay, demure always, messy, of course. I will stand by that. All right, you want to sign us off?
Yeah, y'all, this was a great episode. We had some delicious moments in this delicious fight. So the way boxing gloves taste good, let this deliciousness ring.